So today's video has to do with drafting again. As you know, I make a lot of videos primarily for myself to look at. If you've seen other videos, you know that I've had multiple head injuries. I have a really hard time sometimes learning new skills. Memory's not the greatest, so that way, I go back and I watch my own videos. The nice thing is that other people have been watching the videos. I've noticed with the draft videos, a lot of people have been watching those videos, which is great. I had a really hard time wrapping my brain around understanding drafts. And so I needed to be able to break it down, and I made a video about it, and other people seem to enjoy finding how easy it is. So in previous videos, I showed you how to, to understand how to read a draft, obviously, and if you have the threading and you have the tie-ups, how from that you can figure out what the design will actually look like, so that you can decide which part of the design you want to use in your actual pattern. I started doing some videos on Rosepath, okay, which is a type of twill threading, and you can do various motifs with it, like flowers. Like in my previous videos, I did some poinsettias, which I thought were snowflakes, some flowers, etc. So these things are really cool to be able to add in to, let's say, dish towels and so forth. So the question is, though, is that, sometimes I may want to make my own patterns. So how on earth do I make my own patterns if I have a 4-shaft loom or if I have an 8-shaft loom, in terms of, I can draw out the pattern, but then how do I figure out the tie-up, for example? I know what the threading is. Rosepath threading is going to be the same whether you have, for the 4-shaft loom or the 8-shaft loom. It's going to be pretty much the same. So started to try and figure that out and wrap my brain around that a little bit, so I'm making a video on that, and hopefully you guys find it useful. All right, so let me reorganize the camera, and we'll start off in this video for a 4-shaft Rosepath, and then in another video I will do 8-shaft for those of you who have an 8-shaft loom. All right. Okay, so basically, when we look at Rosepath, if it's a 4-shaft, basically your threading is always going to be the same all the way across. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 3, 2, and then of course you repeat depending on how long you actually want it to be. I've just picked this particular design there. So basically, if this is the actual threading, basically your design cannot be more than 1, 2, 3, 8 squares. Okay. So I decided to make a flower, okay, just a simple flower there, okay, and then from there we're going to figure out what the treadles and the levers would be, okay. So obviously if you've got a table loom, you're using levers, and you would actually be using the numbers, but again, if you've got treadles, you're obviously hooking up the harnesses accordingly, okay. If you've seen a previous video of mine, you realize that I had a table loom, and I thought it had a sinking shed, so that I thought the harnesses went down. And which is, one type of tie-up, whereas it actually it's a jack loom, so it's actually a rising shed or rising harness. And so the squares that you're looking at in order to get your tie-up will be slightly different. So I'm going to do it for a rising shed, but basically don't worry about it, because whatever the rising shed is, the opposite, basically the opposite squares that are empty are your sinking shed. Now again, it's not the end of the world, because let's say, for example, I find a some sort of draft. It's a 4-shaft Rosepath, and I don't know. It doesn't tell me if it's for a rising or a sinking harness loom, right? And so I start to do it. You're going to have a back on one side. You're going to have a front on the other side. So if I have a rising shed and I happen to get the tie up for a sinking one, well, it's still going to work out. One side will have the correct side. One side will have the back of it. Now, again, if it's a sinking shed, I'm going to see the wrong side of it because I've got the rising loom, right? So I'm going to see the back as I'm weaving. The front will be underneath, and I can't see it. So I find that actually very confusing. So obviously, if I've got a rising shed, I want to have a tie-up that's for a rising shed so I can see the actual picture like this as I'm doing it, not like the negative, basically. Like when you see a negative and that you're seeing basically all of this, in terms of floats and stuff, and then this part is, not showing, basically, right? If you've got the wrong one. So if you're okay with weaving things that are in the reverse side, then it really doesn't matter which one you do, okay? For me, it screws with my mind, and I really need to deal with that. So let's take a look at this design here, okay? And whenever you do Rosepath, you're going to have tabby 1, tabby 2, right? So you're going to do the first pattern, okay, the first pattern line, and then I'm going to have my background. So let's pretend my background happens to be white. So I'll have my green thread come across, my white thread for the first tabby, okay? And remember, the tabbies for Rosepath get squished, so you don't see them. You're only going to end up seeing the colors, right? Because the tabby is much thinner than the actual thread that I'm using for the pattern. Again, I've made a video on basic Rosepath before we start diving into this, so I would suggest strongly that you look at that to get comfortable with that before we start, going into making your own patterns. So I would do basically, green, tabby 1, and then I would do another green, I would do tabby 2, and so on and so forth, okay? So when you have a 4-shaft loom, okay, now again, I don't have a 4-shaft table loom, so I don't know. I know the treadles I have for my 4-shaft floor loom has 6 treadles. I'm going to assume you have 6 levers if you have a table loom, but I'm not sure off the top of my head there, okay? So I put the first 2 as tabby, okay, so I've got tabby 1 here, which is going to be 1 and 3. The shafts 1 and 3 are sort of the harnesses 1 and 3. Tabby 2 is the harnesses 2 and 4, okay? The other 4 will be used to make the actual pattern. So the question is, how do we do that, okay? So I'm going to look at the first line. And again, if my loom is a rising shed, I want my tie-up numbers here to be according to the white spaces, these white spaces, so that I can see this picture as I'm weaving it. If I have a sinking harness loom, the tie-up basically is based on the colored squares that I've got if I want to see the images I'm going around. How do I know that? I figured that out the hard way, and so that's what I have learned, and I know that's what it works for my loom. I'm assuming that that's going to work for other people's looms as well, okay? Again, I've only been weaving for a couple of years here, so if you've got more experience in this than I do, please absolutely in the comments, give me extra advice. I would love to have that. Okay, so I've got a rising shed. I'm going to go according to the white spaces, okay? And so you can see basically my threading matches. I just put it right on top of each other so I can see that what I'm looking at, all right? So for the first these are all the combinations that I'm going to do. Now, if using numbers for combinations is going to screw you up, use letters or whatever, okay? I'm just going to use my combinations here. So combination 1, I need to have number 2, number 3, and number 4 open. 4, 3, 2, okay? So I'm going to do that. So this is going to be basically, so I'm going to need 2, or actually, hold on a sec here. What did I do here? So I was just checking here because, of course, originally when I did the practice, when I did it for the sinking shed, so I was like, what's going on here? So I want the white spaces. So I'm going to have 2, 3, 4, okay? For the first one. So I'm going to put 2, 3, 4. That's my first combination right there. Okay? Let's go to the second line. It is again 2, 3, 4. So I've already got that. I don't need to do that again. I've got 2 and 3. Okay, so I'm going to do that. That's my next combination. All right? The next one is 2, 3, 4. Again, already got that, so I don't need to worry about that. Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. So okay, so I need 1, 2, and 3 are the ones that I need. Then I've got, hold on, where was I here? 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then I need to go to this line here, which is 1, 2, 1, 2. So do I have a 1, 2? I do not have a 1, 2. Okay. And then basically here I've just got a 2, 3, 4, which I already have over here. Then I've got a 1, 2, which I already have over here. And then I've got a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I've got a 1, 2, 3 here. So these are my combinations. This is a way of you being able to figure out, if you pick a design, So if you end up basically with more combinations than you actually have treadles, then obviously, or levers, then you know that you can't do it with your particular loom. Okay. So I have 6 treadles on my floor loom, for example, and I've got basically 6 combinations in order to make this, so I can make this particular pattern. Okay. So the question would be now, what is the treadling? Okay. And also the other thing is, how do I figure out how big this pattern is going to be? Because if you're doing it on your loom, you don't want to find out, wow, the pattern's way smaller than I thought it was going to be. So I'm figuring that, like, for example, if I'm doing, right now I've got on my floor loom, I've got some towels. Now they're a different pattern, but I'm using, let's say, A2 cotton. A2 cotton has 20 picks per inch. Okay? So the question is that this design has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it has 9 picks. Now again, we do have tabbies in the middle of them, but the tabbies are supposed to be squished, so it's not going to give a whole lot. I don't think it's going to give a whole lot more expansion. Okay, and again, we'll figure that out once we actually do the actual design. So I'm figuring that if the design has 9 picks, that this design will be approximately ½ an inch. Okay, so if I want it to be obviously taller, I would need to obviously extend it, not the width. The width would stay the same because I have to have it within this width here. But basically, the length would be a lot longer in order to make it, taller. All right. So when I would do the treadling, for example, is that I'm going to, again, you're going to go basically from bottom to top. Okay. Because as I'm weaving, if I want it to look this way, I'm weaving this way. Okay. Now again, if it's, let's say, on the other side of the towel and I want to do an upside down one, well then obviously I would make the picture upside down and figure out my treadling accordingly. Okay. So basically, I'm going to go to throw this one here. Okay. I need basically 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be 1. And then I'm going to do the first tabby, which is A. And again, I put it in green because I know it's going to be a green color. Okay. Then for the next line, it's going to be 1 again because it's 2, 3, 4, but I'm going to do tabby B. Then this line here, it's 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 was my combination number 2. Do my first tabby. Then the next one was 2, 3, and 4. So that is combination number 1. Okay. And then I'm going to do my B tabby. All right. The next one here is 1, 2, and 1, 2. So that one is, hold on, where am I here? No, hold on, where was I here? So I just finished the green, didn't I? Okay, sorry. So then it's basically 1, 2, 3. Okay. So 1, 2, 3 is going to be 3. All right. And then I do my first tabby. The next one is 1, 2, 1, 2. So that would be here 4. Okay. And then I do my second tabby. All right. And then basically I'm back to just 1. All right. So that was, sorry, not 1, sorry. 2, 3, 4. I'm mixing it up between the sinking and the rising shed there. 2, 3, 4, which is my first combination. Do my first tabby. And then basically I've got the fourth one. So the next line would be 1, 2. Yeah, that's my fourth combination right here. I'm going to do my second tabby, which is B. Okay. And then I just kind of work all the way up and basically I get my order. So then that way, what I'm going to do is that usually what I do is I do a little piece of paper here and I put my various combinations so that as I see this, I'm like, oh, okay. If I've got levers, for example, or if I've got treadles, it's treadle 1, do my, and again, if I have it, a different treadle for my tabbies, for example, I will use that, that treadle number. If I'm doing it on my table loom has levers, so then I would just number the levers or whatever, and then I know A is going to be levers 1 and 3, or my, tabby B is going to be levers 2 and 4, for example, and so forth, okay? So we're going to try this out and see whether or not I am actually successful in what I've tried to accomplish here, okay? So let me reorganize the camera again, and let's take a look at what's going on, okay? So I went to change the camera around onto the actual loom. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a few rows just to make sure everything is, looking tickety-boo, and it wasn't working out. And I'm thinking, did I get it that wrong? I could not figure out what was going on. So then I realized that the threading that we had shown on the piece of paper for A 4 shaft, right, is, remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 3, 2. And the threading that I have right now on this loom was for an 8 shaft. So it's going from 1 to 8, 1, and then 8 to 2. And for whatever reason, I thought, well, okay, you know, I should be able to use the same threading because I'm only using the first 4 levers on the table loom. So it's only going to use the first 4 harnesses, and it should work out. No, it doesn't. Okay, so that's a problem right there. So make sure that if you're doing this, make sure you've got the threading correct, because it will not come out otherwise. So unfortunately, I do not have an example to show you. Now, I am making another video that has to do specifically with 8 shaft. So whatever, like, so you can actually take a look at, you know, the end of that video of the diagram that I've done, basically to get an idea of what it should look like and the height. Basically, I have done for the 8 shaft, when I did do the picture, it had approximately similar picks. It was A2 cotton, which we said was 20 picks per inch. The diagram, the design that I used in the 8 shaft, was, I think, approximately 11 picks or something like that. So again, it should be about ½ an inch. And it did turn out to be ½ an inch. And the detail is there. It's, you know, very, because I'm using 16-2 cotton as the warp, the detail is very, like, minuscule. I would definitely use thicker thread to get better detail. Okay, so unfortunately, I am sorry that I wasn't able to actually do the design to prove that to you. But, you know, if anybody does have a 4 shaft loom and you want to try it, please put in the comments below that it worked out, so that other people know as well. That would be awesome. Okay, so have yourself a great day.